Hi guys, in tonight's video we are going to review frequency tables and histograms. You did this in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and we're just going to review it on our unit on univariate data or one variable statistics. We're going to take a look at some vocabulary first again. Here is a frequency table, and a frequency table is a table that organizes quantitative data using tally marks. Okay, here are our tally marks. This is our class interval, whatever we were asking questions about. And then the frequency is just the number of tally marks. And again, it organizes quantitative data. So we're looking at data that can be measured, data that we can find a mean for, as opposed to categorical data, which is just putting things in categories. Okay, a dot plot. This is a dot plot on books read last summer. A dot plot is a number line using a symbol stacked on top of one another. So here's our number line. We're going from 0 to 9. This is the number of books read last summer. And so 4 people read 0 books, and 1 person read 9 books, and everybody in between. And sometimes we use X's here, sometimes we can use dots. Now we're going to take a look at a histogram, and a histogram is similar to a bar graph, except that in a histogram the bars touch in a histogram. So in a histogram, the bars touch, and by having the bars touch, this allows us to have intervals, and that is the most important part of making a histogram, is to have intervals on our x-axis. So our x-axis right here is measuring quantitative data, and again, it's quantitative because we can measure it, not categorical. So our x-axis is measuring quantitative data, and this is where we have intervals or ranges on the x-axis. So again, a histogram is similar to a bar graph, but the bars have to touch. And our intervals here will be between 60 and 65, 65 and 70, 70 and 75, 75 and 80, and 80 and 85. Maybe we're measuring, this is the, whatever this graph happens to be measuring. And this x-axis is measuring years, and the y-axis is measuring the GDP in percentage. So how to make a histogram. So the intervals we were talking about that go on our x-axis, they represent all of your data, the range of your data. And we have a reasonable amount of bars, usually anywhere between 5 to 10. And they should contain enough data and be continuous, because this is because the bars touch, but they do not overlap. So again, when we're looking at intervals, you should always have somewhere between 5 to 10 bars, depending on the data that you're measuring. And you need to figure out how many bars would best represent your data. And again, when we're describing our data, we talked about this in the last set of notes, we are looking at the shape of the graph, and keep in mind the shape can be mound-shaped, it can be uniform, and it can be skewed left or skewed right. The spread, we're going to talk about this more in depth. We look at the range, the difference between the highest and lowest. We look at the IQR, the interquartile range, and we're also going to be looking at, in this unit, the standard deviation. How does the data vary from the mean or from the median? We're looking at 2 measures of center. Those measures of center that we're going to be using are mean, which is the average, or the median, which is the number in the middle, and does it have any outliers? Yes, no, and if yes, what are the outliers, and how does that affect our data? So let's just go back and look at the histogram. A couple important things again. We have to make sure our intervals are correct. How are we measuring our quantitative data? What are the ranges here? And the bars do not touch. Okay, now it's your turn to answer multiple choice question number 1 using the frequency table below. What intervals will best be used in a histogram for this data? And number 2, describe the shape of the histogram below. So again, we looked at mound-shaped, we looked at skewed left, we looked at skewed right, and we looked at uniform. You do not have to enter these in a Google form. There is space on the bottom of your notes for you to answer these questions. Have a good night.